because that the person had all kind of masks on. The murder was picked up by a door cam leaving the vehicle, so which kind of led me to believe that the person might stay somewhere in the area.
On the night of November 11th, 2021, Memphis was unusually quiet. Too quiet. The city, known for its vibrant streets, its rhythm, and its pulse, famous for its music that never seems to stop, fell into a strange silence that night. But in the deep of that silence, something was about to shatter the peace forever. A phone call. A call that no one could have predicted. And that call would mark the beginning of a mystery that still haunts the city to this day. In the hours that followed, a woman, full of life, full of promise, was found dead in her car. A single gunshot to the head. Close range. The kind of murder that makes you question everything. But what was even more chilling was that this wasn't some random crime. No, this woman had been waiting for this moment. She had been waiting for him, a man she had stayed loyal to despite everything, a man she had picked up from prison just days before. What happened that day? Was it a tragic coincidence? Or was there something darker at play? A twisted series of events that led to her untimely death? Who was the man she had waited for? And why did her life come to an end in such a brutal, senseless way? Stay with us as we try to uncover the truth behind the murder of Jeremy Caples. Welcome to City Crime Tales. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that could change everything. Now, let's dive into what happened to Jeremy Caples, a case that has left more questions than answers. Jeremy Caples wasn't just another face in the crowd. She wasn't the type to go unnoticed, not because of her looks, but because of the way she loved, deeply and unconditionally. At just 26 years old, she had already lived a life full of experiences that many never have the chance to. Raised in the heart of Memphis, a city known for its vibrant energy and rhythm, Jeremy had a big heart that embraced not only her children but also those in need. And in her case, that meant her two nephews. But Jeremy wasn't just a mother to her own children, she was also a mother to her two nephews. They were part of her world and she was part of theirs. When they needed her most, she stepped up without hesitation. There was no question in her mind. Family was everything to her. She loved them like her own, guiding them with the same strength and care she'd give her biological children. Jeremy was the kind of person who made everyone feel welcome, like they were an extension of her family. Her love for her family was constant, no matter what life threw at her. And while she was always surrounded by the people she cared about, there was an undeniable warmth to Jeremy. You could feel it when you walked into a room with her. She was the type of person who made you feel like you mattered, like you belonged. Her friends, her family, they all felt that love, that kindness that was so genuine, so raw. But with a heart that big came the possibility of being taken advantage of. Jeremy's kindness wasn't always met with the same level of loyalty. Could it be that someone close to her used her generosity for their own gain? Or was there something more to the loyalty she showed a man from her past? Someone who, despite everything, she continued to stand by? Jeremy's loyalty wasn't just about being there for her nephews or her friends. It extended to a man she had loved for years. A man who had been behind bars for 4 years. Despite the distance and the separation, Jeremy never gave up on him. She celebrated his birthdays while he was incarcerated, always there waiting for his return. But was her loyalty to him misplaced? Could her devotion to this man have led her down a path she could never have imagined? Jeremy's heart was bigger than any struggles she faced, but in a world full of people who might not always have her best interest at heart, was her kindness her greatest strength, or her biggest vulnerability? Could Jeremy's deep loyalty to the people she loved have been the very thing that led to her tragic end? Could her heart, which loved so fiercely, have drawn her into something darker than she ever imagined? And for years, Jeremy kept her promise. She didn't just tell Ronaldo she would wait for him, she showed him. Her boyfriend, Ronaldo Wright, had been incarcerated for 4 long years. It wasn't easy. It wasn't ideal. But for Jeremy, those years apart only strengthened her commitment. The distance didn't lessen her love. It made her more determined to stay loyal, to stand by him no matter what. No matter the time, no matter the separation, she was in it for the long haul. Jeremy's loyalty wasn't just about sending letters, making collect calls, or staying connected through distant phone lines. It was about waiting with love, with belief, and with hope. She believed that when he came home, they would finally get the chance to rebuild their lives together. Away from the prison walls, away from the past that had kept them apart for so long. In her heart, she knew they could make it work. After all, love had survived 4 years of separation. But what Jeremy didn't know was that the reunion she had longed for, the reunion she had held on to for so long, would be shorter than she could have ever imagined. What seemed like the beginning of a new chapter for them both would quickly spiral into something far darker. A life that had been separated by bars and walls was now reunited, but for how long? Ronaldo's release marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, but not the kind of future Jeremy had expected. They were supposed to pick up where they left off, but in the shadows of their reunion, the ghosts of the past lingered. And it wasn't just the weight of his prison sentence that haunted them. The question was, what secrets had Ronaldo brought with him when he walked out of that prison gate? What had really changed during those 4 years? Had the time apart altered them both in ways they couldn't see? Was their reunion truly a fresh start, or was it just the beginning of a new kind of struggle? A struggle that Jeremy would never see coming? Was their reunion destined to end in tragedy? What truths remained buried in the past, waiting to come to light when Jeremy least expected it? November 11th, 2021. What seemed like just another normal day in Jeremy Capel's life was about to take a tragic turn. To everyone around her, it was a regular Thursday filled with everyday tasks. Jeremy had big plans that morning. She spoke to her sister, Candace, early in the day, the kind of conversation sisters have when they're comfortable and at ease. I'm going to school, then I'm going to meet someone to get some shoes. It was casual, routine even. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Just a normal sisterly chat. But little did Candace know, this would be the last conversation she would ever have with her sister. As the day wore on, Jeremy continued her errands just like she said she would. But then the hours passed. And soon, Candace began to wonder where her sister had gone. It wasn't like Jeremy to be out of touch for long, especially when she was supposed to meet someone. Candace called and called again, but each ring was met with silence. No response. No answer. The weight of that silence began to settle heavily on her shoulders. The worry started creeping in as Candace wondered why Jeremy wasn't answering. The minutes turned to hours. And still there was no answer. Candace's calls continued to ring unanswered. The silence between them seemed to stretch on forever. The unease deepened. This wasn't like Jeremy, she always answered, especially when Candace called. They spoke every day. So why was today different? Why hadn't Jeremy answered? The longer the silence stretched, the more it gnawed at Candace. Something wasn't right. Candace's worry began to spiral. She had a sinking feeling deep in her gut, something every sister knows. The voice on the other end of the line should have been there. It should have been her sister. Instead, the unanswered calls felt like a cold omen, a sign that something terrible was unfolding. The silence weighed heavier with each passing minute. Candace couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She decided to do what any sister would do when the worry became unbearable. She got into her car and headed straight to Jeremy's house, hoping to find her there. She could already imagine the relief she'd feel when she saw her sister walk through the door with a smile, telling her everything was fine. But when Candace arrived, it wasn't the relief she expected. The street was lined with flashing police lights. The sound of sirens echoed through the neighborhood. Candace's heart skipped a beat as she saw the yellow tape stretched across the area, marking the spot where something unimaginable had occurred. The familiar street, once full of life, now felt like a crime scene, cold, distant, and full of unanswered questions. When Candace got out of the car and approached the scene, the reality hit her. She was led away from the area by officers. And that's when she saw it, the one thing she never expected to see, the police car parked by her sister's own vehicle. Jeremy's car. A vehicle that had been parked in the middle of Prince Avenue, where the last moments of her life had played out. What was supposed to be a simple errand had turned into a chilling silence. The moment Candace walked up to that scene, everything changed. Why hadn't Jeremy answered her phone? Where had she gone? And who could have done this to her? What was supposed to be a casual trip, a quick stop to pick up some shoes, had led to something far worse. What happened in the hours between Jeremy leaving her sister's house and the moment Candace arrived to find her sister gone? What secrets were hidden in those final hours? Why didn't Jeremy answer her phone? But her legs felt heavy, as if every step took her further away from the safety of denial and closer to the horrible truth she didn't want to face. When she finally saw it, when she laid eyes on her sister's car, the full weight of reality hit her like a wrecking ball. There, in the back of Jeremy's own car, lay her sister's lifeless body. The woman who had been full of life that morning, making plans, talking to her sister like she always did, was now gone. The car was quiet, almost too quiet. And in that silence, the horror of it all became clear. Jeremy's body had been discovered with a single gunshot wound to the head, at close range. There was no struggle, no signs of a fight, no sign of robbery. Just a cold, calculated killing. Someone had executed her and then walked away, leaving behind nothing but the body and a series of unanswered questions. Who could have done this to Jeremy, a beloved mother, sister, and friend? And more chillingly, who could have walked away from that scene without a single trace of fear, without a hint of remorse? There were no signs of a struggle. No fingerprints left behind. No evidence that anyone had tried to fight back. Whoever did this had made sure of that. It was a crime executed with chilling precision. But what could have been the motive? What reason could there possibly be for someone to take a mother away from her children, a daughter away from her family, in such a cold, brutal way? And who could be capable of committing such a violent act and simply walking away without fear, without hesitation? Who could have killed Jeremy? A woman known for her kindness, her loyalty, and her deep love for her family? What kind of person could pull the trigger and walk away, leaving behind nothing but grief, confusion, and 1,000 unanswered questions? The investigation into Jeremy Capel's death began almost immediately. Memphis police were determined to find the killer, but as they quickly discovered, answers weren't going to come easy. Despite the gravity of the situation, the streets around Prince Avenue were eerily quiet. Neighbors who had lived alongside Jeremy for years seemed to know nothing. No one had heard a gunshot. No one had seen a thing. It was as if the entire neighborhood had turned a blind eye to the tragedy that had unfolded right in the heart of their community. The lack of witnesses was a cruel twist. In a neighborhood where people often know each other's business, the silence was deafening. How could no one have heard anything? How could no one have seen a single thing? No gunshot. No unusual activity. It didn't make sense. But sometimes when a crime like this happens, the truth doesn't always come from the people who live around the scene. Sometimes it comes from somewhere unexpected. And then there was the breakthrough. The surveillance footage. A doorbell camera from a nearby house had captured something crucial. The footage showed an individual calmly walking away from Jeremy's car. There was no rush, no panic, no signs of someone trying to hide or run. The person walked away at a leisurely pace, like they had no fear, like they knew exactly what they had done and felt no reason to hurry. What struck the investigators wasn't just the fact that the footage was clear. It was the calmness of the individual. No fear. No sign of distress. Whoever this was, they knew exactly what they had done. They had walked away from the crime scene with no urgency, no care, as if they had nothing to hide. It was as if they felt invincible, like there was no reason to be afraid. As the investigation continued, the question remained, was this murder a random act, or was it something far more personal? The lack of panic, the calmness of the killer, suggested this wasn't a crime of opportunity. Whoever did this didn't just stumble upon Jeremy. They knew her. They knew the area. They knew where to find her. But why? Why would someone take the life of a woman who had so much to live for, who was loved by so many? And why was the killer so calm? Was this murder a random act of violence, or did it stem from something deeper? A betrayal? A grudge? Or was it something personal? Something between Jeremy and the person who pulled the trigger? Why was the killer so calm? What was it about Jeremy that made someone walk away from such a brutal crime without a hint of fear or remorse? 3 years have passed since that fateful November day. 3 years of unanswered questions, 3 years of grief, and 3 years of longing for justice. Jeremy's family continues to mourn her loss, unable to move forward without the closure they so desperately need. Her father, Jerry Caples, has refused to stop searching. Every day he walks the streets of Nutbush hoping for answers. He believes that someone out there knows the truth about what happened to his daughter. But the silence around her death remains deafening. The killer has not been brought to justice. And the questions linger, unspoken but heavy in the air. Someone knows the truth. Someone walked away from that crime scene without fear, without a hint of remorse. They knew exactly what they had done, and they knew they would never have to face the consequences. But they're still out there. It's been 3 years, but the mystery remains unsolved. The silence continues to haunt Jeremy's family, her father, her sister, and everyone who loved her. Why won't anyone come forward? What do you think happened that day? Who could have killed Jeremy Caples, and why is the truth still hidden? Is there someone who knows something but is too afraid to speak? Or has the killer managed to vanish without a trace? Thank you for watching City Crime Tales. If Jeremy's story moved you, kindly share it with your friends and family. Together we can help keep her story alive. Let's make sure the truth is heard. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss another story that could change everything. We owe it to Jeremy, to her family, and to every person who has been touched by this case to seek justice. Together, we can bring closure to this family and finally uncover the truth behind her tragic death.